over the years, I have personally a lot of experience with the remedies. I was dealing with depression, which I didn't know what was until I took mustard and it went away. A lot of things over the years has given me the information. I know how it feels to be depressed. I know how it feels to be anxious. So I know the remedies that can help those things. So when I speak to my clients, when it says, I feel depressed and I don't know why, I said, know what? I know how it feels, but no, I tried this remedy. And they get back to me like, yes, I'm feeling better now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Modern Healer's Journey. My name is Tammy Bennett, and I am an Oriental medicine doctor. I'm in practice in Central Florida, and I am proud today to have a guest. Her name is Bettina Rasmussen, and Bettina has been working with Bach Flower Remedies for quite some time, and we're here to learn about her story so that we can educate and empower people to help themselves and learn a little bit about the Bach Flower Remedies as a whole. So Bettina, welcome.
Thank you, Tammy.
How did you first get involved with the Bach Flower Remedies yourself?
It was a little bit by chance. A family member showed me this new toy he got, which was a Bach Flower kit. And we were playing with it. She had a pendulum, and it was so much fun. And after leaving, I was like, oh, I have to get one of those ones. And it was kind of expensive, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And after 6 months, I had saved enough money, and I got my Bach Flower kit. And after that, I was just like smitten. I had to learn everything about the Bach Flower Remedies, but in the middle of the 1990s, there was no internet. There was not really any way of figuring out learning about the Bach Flower Remedies. So I would be driving around in Los Angeles, going from one bookstore to the other, trying to find books, and I think I got 3 of them. So basically from then on, it was just like, I had to learn. I want to learn about the remedies. I want to tell people about them because those ones are just so amazing. And ever since then, it was just a matter of learning and teaching. And eventually I took the 3 levels to become a practitioner. And I'm a Bach Flower practitioner. And my goal is to educate. And I have a website that eventually thebachflower.com, where I got as much as information I had in my head. I tried to put it in the website.
And when I was looking at some of your information on your website, you attended the Bach Institute, correct?
It's called the Bach Flower Foundation, and there's different teachers around. There's heavy classes, different places. So my first class was in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona. So I traveled there, took level 1. A year later, I took level 2 in San Diego. And sometime after, I took level 3 close to my house when I lived in Santa Monica in Los Angeles. And then after level 3, you had to do home studies, and it took a little while because everything was by mail. So I got licensed, I think it was 2001. Wow. So that was my beginning of it.
Yeah, you became so passionate so early. Did you have a remedy that was made for you and you felt something different about yourself initially? Is that what happened for you?
The funny thing is, when I was a teenager, my mom took me to a healer back in Denmark, and I found that bottle, and that was water violet. One of my big remedies that my personality, I found it. She had given to me like 10 years earlier. Over the years, I have personally a lot of experience with the remedies. I was dealing with depression, which I didn't know what was until I took mustard and it went away. A lot of things over the years has given me the information. I know how it feels to be depressed. I know how it feels to be anxious. So I know the remedies that can help those things. So when I speak to my clients, when it says, I feel depressed and I don't know why, I said, know what? I know how it feels, but no, I tried this remedy. And they get back to me like, yes, I'm feeling better now. A lot of the remedies I have personal experience with, either myself or my neighbor or my cat or my children. After 25 years, you get a lot of stories. So a lot of the information, a lot of things I'm learning is from books, and from the educations, but it's also just talking to people, helping out, and they get back to me and says, oh my God, I'm feeling better. So each remedy has a story to me from my own experience of people that I have met throughout the 30 years 25 years I've been working with the remedies.
Is it true, and I've done some reading about Dr. Bach, that Dr. Bach was originally trying to help patients with gastrointestinal disorders, and when he stumbled upon the fact that the flower remedies were helping people emotionally, but not as much physically. Is that the true story of what started the remedies themselves? Or can you tell me what the stories are that you've read about, that you've learned, that maybe contradict that?
No, it's more or less correct. He was a regular physician for many years and very successful. Then he I think came into homeopathy, and he discovered what they call that he was very successful with it, but he is not very well known, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's called the Bach nostrils.
Nosodes.
Yes.
Okay. And
Something like that.
N-O-S-O-D-E. Nosode.
Something like that. I can never pronounce it. So there was seven homeopathic remedies, sometimes homeopathic remedies. They will look at seven. He later figured out he found out there's 7 personalities. So each of those nostril, whatever, they are so more or less the same personality, 7 personality that he found in the Bach Flower Remedies. And with those remedies, he was very, very successful. He had 2 practices, one on the rich part of the town and one practice in the poor part of town. And he will spend equal amount of time in both places using these ones. And he was very successful with it, but he was still not satisfied. He thought there got to be something that's better, easier, and closer to nature. And he was not happy in London. So I forgot exactly for which reason, but he moved. He started spending a lot of time on the countryside outside London, and that's why he came up with somehow ideas that the flowers had energies, and that's how he started going away from the homeopathic ones he was working with into the flower remedies. So that's how, yeah.
My understanding was that he had a window or an area where there were doors with windows in them, where he would look out at the garden and he could see the dew in the morning on the flowers themselves. And it struck him as interesting that the water that was sitting on the plants might have some type of benefit from a homeopathic perspective for helping patients with illness. And then over time, I guess he had patients coming in and out of his practice, and that he would treat them with these remedies, but the remedies were, again, he wasn't getting reports back that the physical ailments were being helped. Go ahead. But more so, I know it happened to me the other day too. Feel free to take a drink. But what he was finding was that the patients were coming back and reporting, I feel less anxious, or I feel like I can sleep better, or I may feel like I'm not angry at my husband as much, or whatever it is. Was that your understanding from the different resources and books that you were looking at when you first got into this as well?
I'm not sure exactly that story. it could be I may not have read it, or I had read it such a long time, but it seems very familiar. But I don't know at which point he started trusting his own intuition, or which point he started counting on what people told him. I'm not sure which direction, but I know that he tried out everything first on himself.
Right. Makes sense. Most physicians in that time had to try things on themselves first. And do I have, let me try to figure this out here. I have some notes. The history of Dr. Bach, was he in the 1700s or the 1800s?
He was born, I forgot exactly, but I think even the end of the 1800, maybe 986 or something, but I don't remember. I have to look that up.
Okay. I'm actually going to look at that. So
actually, he died in 1936, and he was 50 years old.
Got it.
So that means 86. Yeah. So he was born in 1886, 85, 86. Okay. Yes.
And tell me about your research in all the books that you got and the education that you received in Scottsdale, and then back around the Los Angeles area when you were doing your study program. What do you feel is the true reason why the remedies seem to work? And I'll tell you from my own perspective, with homeopathy in general, what we normally find is that from the scientific process that exists now, homeopathy doesn't fit into that category where you can measure it with science, but empirical evidence shows that these remedies just work consistently over and over and over again. So in your research, did you find it was just empirical evidence as well, or was there something more that you saw from a scientific perspective that may explain how the remedies actually do work?
I think what Dr. Bach is something to do with energies, and there's to make big studies. It costs a lot of money,
of course.
But who has the money in our field? We don't have the government money for the research, and so I don't think anything big and serious has been done. And the ones this research I have seen, it as a practitioner, it doesn't really make sense. I know that, but there was a research about a lot of nursing students that got given a rescue remedy during an exam, and then they got tested. They asked afterwards, how do you think it worked? And there was a little bit more than 50% who said it was good. But the thing is, not everybody needs rescue remedy. You have one person who is start worrying about things, like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do this. There's one person that lacks self-confidence. There's going to be one that is that start daydreaming. There's only 5 remedies inside rescue remedy.
Right.
There's nothing for the person who lacks self-confidence. There's nothing for the person who start worrying about things. So rescue remedy may have helped 50% of the nursing students, but what about the person who is worrying? What about the one that needs low self-confidence? So rescue remedy doesn't cure everyone.
Right.
So when we need Bach Flower Remedies, we look at each individual person. This person needs more self-confidence. This one has to slow down. This person has to not look over the same question for like 5 minutes because I want to make sure it's 100% right, and then don't move on to the next one. So we all have different personalities. So it has to be, if you want to do a study, you have to do it with a Bach practitioner. You had to look at each individual person, and then see the success on the, like, let's say 100 test subjects. Do they have what do they think about their treatment bottle after like a period of time? You cannot say, oh, did rescue remedy help the nursing students? Yeah, it helped 51%.
Right.
I feel it's not the right way of testing it. But we don't spend time dealing with it. I mean, there's people that's going to say, oh, it is just placebo and it doesn't work. Okay, it's fine. I don't care.
Sure.
They can choose not to take it. And then they had the people who says, no, what? Oh my God, I'm feeling so much better. I told my neighbors and friends, they're trying it. It works too. I'd rather spend my time on those people than the ones who is going to argue with me whether or not it's working.
Right. So I think what you're saying sounds very constitutional homeopathy like. I did a webinar with a practitioner a couple of weeks ago, and she practices homeopathy. She's a nurse practitioner. And one of the things that she discussed with me was the fact that with classical homeopathy, the length of time that you spend with someone asking those deep probing questions is 2 hours. And you're trying to extract all of the small pieces of that person's constitution and understand the best remedy that fits their issue, which is very unlike what we do in Western medicine, which is we take a broad brush, we test 5,000 people in a study, and we look at the numbers of people. Let's say 5,000 people, 1,000 people benefited from this drug, and 1,500 people had an adverse event from this drug, and so on and so forth down the line in a study. But it's never specific or highly specialized to the person, which in homeopathy or in Bach Flower Remedies selection, as much constitutional data as we can find, the better. So when you're seeing someone, how does that work for you? Excuse me.
It's the same thing you're saying, that when I'm talking with people, I try to focus on how you're feeling right now. Sometimes I don't want to get too deep in what happened 20 years ago. It's more like, how do you feel right now? Because we can only give 7 remedies at the same time. So we try to find out what are the most important things right now. What is going to make your life more comfortable right now? So we're looking at it kind of like an onion, the top layer. Let's figure out what is the top issues right now. Then when the first layer is removed, there might be another issue. We take care of that one. That one is removed. Then we have another issue. We kind of like work little by little. Same thing. Usually a consultation doesn't take more than 20 minutes to 40 minutes to get down to the first layer. Then when those issues are taken care of, then we can move on to the next layer. But the same thing, we're asking about, how do you feel? How do you sleep? Why are you not sleeping? How are you dealing with stress? And usually by those, a lot of people, they know how they feel. Then they can express that. They say, I feel anxious. Then you're asking, so can you describe that anxiety? Do you worry about things? What are you afraid of? And by them answering, I'm afraid of spiders. I mean, then I know which remedy it is. It's meaningless. Or if they're saying, like, I don't know, I wake up in the morning, I feel anxious, like something bad's going to happen. I know my remedies, then it's aspirin. Or they're like, oh, I'm worried about this and that. Then I'm worrying about that one, and then I'm worrying this one. Then it's the white chestnut. So by knowing remedies and keep asking questions, I know which direction to go when I make my suggestions. And like I said, usually it takes like 20 to 40 minutes to come down to the core issues.
Right.
And they work with those remedies until the issues have been resolved. And then you can move on to other remedies. So same thing, we're asking questions.
My first encounter with the remedies came in acupuncture school. We were getting ready to take a big exam. It was the state test. And one of the practitioners that was our teacher said that we all needed to take rescue remedy before the test so that we could, perform with less anxiety. And that was my first time seeing the remedy bottle and then subsequently the remedy kit with all of the bottles in it. Are there 38 remedies? Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. 38 different ones. And then I had a client that came to see me. This was about 2 years later. I took my state exam. I became licensed. Then I had someone come see me, and she had this, extreme fear of getting into the car because she had had a car accident and she was very fearful of driving. And it was a very specific fear, a very specific thing. And I went through my remedy bottles and I picked only 3 remedies for her because it was so specific. And I mixed it and then I gave her the remedy bottle and she took it for several weeks and came back and told me that she was feeling much better about driving and she really didn't have the trepidation to get into the car. What was your first memory of someone that you helped? What was that? What was their situation like?
I think the first one, it was kind of funny. It was a mom who called me and said that her son, every time he had like a little boy that had to be in a car seat, and he would scream the whole time. No matter if they're driving 10 minutes or half an hour or 2 hours, he would scream the whole time in the car. So I suggested to give him rescue remedy. The next thing is like a short time after I get a phone call, she's like, did I drug my son? Because I went to the Whole Food store, the supermarket, or whatever, the health food store, got the rescue remedy, I put it in his mouth before I put him in a car, and he was quiet all the way home. So she called me like, oh my God, did I drug him? Because he looked out the window and he didn't cry. So I thought it was so cute that she had to call me asking if he was drugged because,
right.
She was not used to him looking out the window. I'm like, that's what usually kids do. They look out the window. They don't scream when they're in the car. So that was one of the first ones.
Was.
She didn't know. She thought that, oh my God, he's drugged. He's quiet.
So I also have another condition that I worked with a patient on that comes to me right now because a lot of people suffer with it. And that's menopause, women that get the hot flashes and they get moody or aggravated or yell. And it's pretty miserable situation to have to go through. And I've had several patients that come to see me that I'll do acupuncture, my traditional therapies, and it will help with hot flashes and things. But the mood issues, the remedies seem to work very, very quickly and very strongly for. And it's profound. I'll have somebody come in that's crying and aggravated and doesn't feel right in her own skin. And then I'll prescribe the remedy, just like you said, where it's specific to the situation that's happening now. And within several weeks, I'll get a call back and they're a different person. Do you see women that have menopause or menstrual issues as well, like mood swings and things like that?
Yeah, I do. I do. I get like things, people in waves. When I was looking very much into to children and how to deal with schools and symptoms of being hyper and not paying attention, I got a lot of customers with those issues. I do not have too many with menopause. I like to recommend homeopathic remedies and for like the symptoms.
Right.
When I got premenopausal myself, I started waking up with panic attacks. I would wake up, my heart was pounding, I was sweating, I was like, what's going on? Yeah. And it took me a couple of weeks realizing like, oh, this is the description of Aspen. I never experienced this feeling of just kind of like panic in the middle of the night. Waking up, and the first 2 seconds you're kind of like, oh, it's good, and like, oh, and I'm looking like Helen is like, did I forget something? Did I pay my bills? Anybody sick? I'm like, no, everything's good. So I started taking Aspen, and within like a couple of days, it was like, oh, this is how Aspen feels. So for many years, I suddenly had to take Aspen every day. But I think that was my menopausal emotions was like severe.
And I wanted to clarify for the audience, and you're not saying aspirin, you're saying Aspen, A-S-P-E-N,
yeah.
Which is a remedy.
Yes.
I guess some people might want to know if there are any interactions with the remedies and other things. So my understanding is that the remedy is supposed to be put in clean water and not in juice or soda, or like you're not supposed to eat peppermint right before or after, so that you get the remedy. Just like a homeopathic, you should have a clean a clean mouth when you take it. Is that also how you were trained?
No, I know that the rules with real homeopathic remedies that you cannot eat or drink anything strong before or after. But the Bach flower remedies were put in a category of homeopathy, but actually they're just flower remedies. And with flower remedies, you can eat and do whatever you please, and it's nothing you can do is going to prevent the remedies from working.
Okay, so that's a difference, the way that I was told versus your training. So, and I've had patients that have used their remedy in a soft drink or whatever, and they've all had good results. So that was possibly a misnomer from someone that I was educated from. Tell me about your work with pets. I've never worked with, well, I take that back. I have dogs. As a matter of fact, we're having terrible storms here in the next 20 minutes, and I'm sure my little dog is freaking out. And I did use Rescue Remedy in his water this morning, and I've seen that work remarkably well with pets. Do you actually do specific remedies for pets based on their owner's assessment of the pet and the condition?
I try to do my best. I am not an expert except from what I using applying the same method as we do with people. Whatever limited information I have of animals, but you use the same method of asking. You cannot really ask your dog how you're feeling, but we know more or less that yes, you get jealous if you're petting your neighbor's dog and your dog gets jealous, or you know that if your little dog start barking and at the big dogs that he's most likely afraid. So we have to kind of guess based on the situation around the animals, that based on what we can guess. Very often I do have people saying like, oh, my little dog is so mad, it barks all the time. But then is it because it's territorial, or is it because it's afraid? So we kind of asking like, well, how's the tail? How is the personality? So we are trying to look at like all those things around the animals to guess what remedies they need.
Do you also ask questions like, for me, when I'm talking to my traditional Chinese medicine veterinarian, I have two different veterinarians that I go to with my dogs. One is the regular vet, and the other one is the TCM vet. And the TCM vet will ask me questions like, does your dog prefer cold water or room temperature water? Does she lay on the patio, or does she prefer to lay on the tile in the house and cool off? Mm-hmm. Does your dog like to eat first, or does she wait for the other dogs and then she eats after? Do you ask similar kinds of questions like that?
Those ones will be more physical issues. We have to, when we work with the Bach Flower Remedies, we work with emotions like, is a dog happy to share the food, or is it like, I'm going to go and eat all the food first? So that kind of emotions. Are they afraid of not having enough food? So the questions will have be based on like emotions. Okay. Do you think that the dog is territorial? Do you think that it's afraid? Do you think it's a bully? Do you think it's needy? And sometimes even the personality of the human can reflect on the animal. That makes it a little bit more complicated. But if you cannot absolutely not figure out what's wrong with the animal, you have to start asking the owner, how are you feeling? And then sometimes they're like, yeah, I've gone through a divorce and this and this is going on. So it could be that the dog is reflecting its emotions from what's going on in the home based on other issues.
Yeah. If you're talking about energy as a whole, go back to what you said about 10 minutes ago, the Bach flowers have an energy to them, to change energy or shift energy. And energy is a very esoteric term. We could probably just spend 2 hours talking about energy, but for the sake of this discussion, the energy that I'm talking about would be a human to animal energy, or a transference of a plant energy to a dog, a cat, or a human. So I think when you're dealing with the term energy and changing energy, it makes a lot of sense what you're saying, that you want to know what surroundings the dog is in. If we can't get a read on the emotions of a dog or even a child, babies respond to energy similarly. And I know you treat children, which I do not. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like to treat children with Bach Flower Remedies?
It's the same thing, especially when they're younger, they cannot really have communication skills, and it takes a while for children to be able to express themselves. It will more be like we had to see the reaction around the environment, and then we had to guess. It takes a while before children can start expressing themselves. We have to read into what they're saying, like what I'm going to do with them. They're never worried. We know when they have separation anxiety, they won't let go of your legs. You can't go to the bathroom by yourself. So when they're little, we have to guess more or less like animals, what's going on with them. And that's, again, as a practitioner, I try to get as much information out of the parents. How is the child doing with friends? How are they doing when you leave them? How are they asking questions? How are they basically, how are they doing in school? What are other people telling about them, to kind of figure out what's going on? And sometimes has anything happened in a household? Right. Divorces, new siblings, moving. Each child is different, so you can have 10 children moving, but only one of them has a bad reaction because that child is not doing well with moving. So again, we had to ask a lot of questions because they can outside have many the same influences, but not all reacting in the same time, in the same way. So, like say, 10 children are moved, only one is not doing well because they need walnut for adjusting to changes. Same thing, self-confidence. So we look at what they're saying in their environment, how they're reacting to things, and then we predict which remedy they may need.
Understood. So it's time for me to wrap up a little bit on the conversation. How does someone reach out to you if they would like to get an assessment and a remedy?
I have a website which is bachflower.com, and you can call us. We have our phone numbers everywhere. We have our emails is info@bachflower.com. I do consultations, both email and phone. We have free literature. Just send us an email or call us and ask for free literature, and we'll send it to you. We have a lot of real nice articles from different authors. We have questionnaires. We have charts for both humans and animals. We have like online education for those people who doesn't want to read, or they just want everything concentrated. So everything that you need, you can come to bachflower.com. We also sell the Bach Flower Remedies, and there will be a link from our website into directlyfromnature.com, which is where we sell products. Okay, very good. I really appreciate you spending time with me, Bettina. I know you're on the other side of the coast. You're on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast, and it was great chatting with you, and I look forward to maybe having you come back again. We might be able to talk some more specifics. It was very nice speaking with you.